Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome back to the Genisus Esports YouTube channel here for another round of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. My name is David Christie, and joining me in the commentary box as always is Tapello Merioli. We'll hear from Tapello in just a bit, but we are here for round number 8 of the championship. We go to Australia and we are at Mount Panorama, round number 8. You can see there just another 4 rounds after tonight to go. And Tapello, it's a daytime race, thank the Lord, but the mountain is always a tricky affair.
Listen, the mountain doesn't care whether there's no light, no grip. It's torture all the time, and it's such a tricky circuit to get right. I've done a few races on the circuit. I've had a few crashes on the circuit, so trust me, the light is just one of the factors that make this race such a great race.
It certainly is. Let's check a little look then at the standings. As for the championship, you can see there George Boothby. Booby himself up there with a 38-point leads at the top of the table, ahead of Marco Bischoff. Grantas Caracas in third position with Noah Ader in fourth, Valentin Barrier in fifth. But that top 5 very close still in with contention, depending on drop rounds and all that sort of stuff. Philippe Minard in sixth position, Tariq Adam in seventh, Sakari Lettinen in eighth position, Tommy Rozier in 9th, Adam Spansky rounded out that top 10 in 10th position with 360 points. So that is how they line up in terms of the championship. We've got a good field out there just now. Looks like we've got about 22 cars so far waiting to go into qualifying. In the meantime, let's find out what happened last time out at Kota. Grid then just now, it's Philippe Minard on pole position alongside Grantas Caracas is row 1. Row 2 is going to be Jack Alexander alongside Booby himself, George Boothby in 4th position. I always almost get caught out with that because it's almost as they get to the finish line, but it's just a little bit after that. So there you go, Philippe Minard straight up into turn 1. Grantas Caracas tries to go on the inside but gets caught out there, has to shuffle back into second position. You've got Jack Alexander there in third as well. Everybody's through safely, and it usually comes back to him in the end there. So that's a wild lunge up the inside, and that was almost taking his teammate out there, Jack Alexander, and you don't get the best performance. So on a hot lap you might be able to do a breaking point like that, and he does it again, going very late into the corner there. In fact, he goes wide, and we've got chaos and carnage. So it lasted all of one lap, and there goes Jack Alexander. Have a look at this then. So this is going to be Jack Alexander. Yeah, again, just misses the breaking point completely. Tries to floor it, going back in, tries to rejoin. Yeah, see, I'll be honest, right? And again, this is a personal opinion, ladies and gentlemen. If you're on your last warning, you do not pull that stuff. I can't really say it about this championship because we've not really had that sort of moment. As Dennis Beatshark fires it up the inside of Adam Spansky, and well, I mean, that was slightly firm. That was slightly a little bit more aggressive than we've seen all season from Mr. Beatshark. But yeah, he got away with it. But
looking at the front, well, not currently on screen, as we have contact in the rear of the Ferrari. Oh, held it well there. Almost swiped another driver trying to control that car and hold it.
I'm just trying to think of what car offhand could be described as having a booty here. I'm not sure if we even want to get down into that conversation.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Come into the pit lane. Those were the last 2 cars that needed to have the pit stop, and here comes Valentin Barrier, gets the draft, gets the run, tries to take that Honda around the outside, and such is the poise of that Aston Martin. He's going to cut down to the inside line, and the Honda has to end up giving that position back. Is it going to try and go right round the outside? There's no way that Mercedes is fancying having a go. It does fancy having a go. We've got a 3-car fight going on for a 2-car space on the grids here, and not only that, Valentin Barrier might be losing out then to Tommy Rozier.
Down the brakes is Samir Forsh going down the inside of Clifford. The Ferrari versus Lamborghini, the age-old rivalry down in Italy. And as we see Apes and Tima getting... Is that the overtake? Yes, it is. It is Apes and Tima there with the Genisus Esports livery on their McLaren, finally getting the overtake. So
19th position. but crucially, it's still a fight, it's still a battle that is going on in these dying embers of the 7th round of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. And well, it was a three-way battle, it's now a two-way battle, because David Hill, unfortunately, has slid that car right into the barrier, some significant damage. Nothing worse than, we'll come back to that in a second, as Sakari letting it sends up the inside, takes that position away from Tariq Adam, and that was very respectful from Tariq Adam as well. As that's a Merc going very, very wide there, that is Alvin Manson, and now Samir Fosh to go right round the outside of the two of them! Two for the price of one! Thank you very much, and Samir Foch, like that, goes from P11 to P9.
As we see behind Sakari Litton, the battle is still on between Noah Ada and Tariq Adam. So one more lap to go. It is going to be interesting to see who comes out on top, because both these drivers are desperate to get a good result and a good haul of points.
Contact,
and there's contact, as I was just about to say.
That was getting really aggressive between Tariq Adam and Noah Ater. Exemplary race here, but here we go, move up the inside then. There goes Noah Ater, trying to hold on for Valentin Barrier. Barrier with a stern defence of that position there, tries to take the inside line, battle of the late breakers there, and that's going to be the Mercedes up the inside as well. Tommy was there, takes that position, and Noah Ater left out to dry here. This is getting very, very sketchy. Indeed, contact! And there goes Valentin Barrier down to the bottom of the group. But back to your leaders. Philippe Minard comes across the line, a win here at round 7. Grantas Caracas in second position. George Boothby finishes in third. What a battle going on here, Tapello.
Yeah, it looks like we had nothing, and then everything. Cars came alive. We saw contact, we saw mistakes, and these drivers are, again, a sign of desperation, trying to get as good a finish as they can.
So there we go, that's us up to speed from all the action last week at Kota, and we are straight into the thick of it, the tail end of qualifying. Grantas Caracas currently in pole position, 159.205. Cody Sherritt in second place with 159.4. So we're well under that 2-minute marker now, which is just wild. Given that the fastest lap, what was it, set by one of the GT3 Extreme cars in the real life Bathurst 2 weeks ago, was I believe it was a 156. But either way, you've got to say, Tapello, while we go on board with Cody, a fantastic circuit here. It really has something for all the drivers, but you're never too far away from danger with those walls being so close to either side of the circuit here.
No, it's one of those circuits where it's deceptively tight. Like, as a driver, you think you can push, but it always catches you out just how quickly you get close to a wall. And especially a corner like this, as we ride on board, going into turn 2, it's very tricky because you wanna take as much momentum as you can into that corner, and it starts pulling you wide, and you think you can control it, but it's very easy to kiss the wall, bump on the curbs, and it's something else. As you see, going into turn 3, turn 4, very tricky because it's a low traction zone, very easy to lose the rear hand, struggle with a bit of instability, and this is the part that's deceptively tricky. At the top of the mountain, as you go through the walls, you really want to maximize your track limits, run on the line, get as close as possible to the wall, and sometimes, unfortunately, close means you're going to hit the wall, and sometimes you can just bump off, keep going. Sometimes it unsettles you, as you see there, touching those curbs, and it unsettles the car. I love this section, the S's. It's really about rhythm. We speak about rhythm all the time on these circuits, but the S's are fantastic for finding that line. And because it starts uphill and then it just goes downhill, you just need to let the momentum of the car pull you through. You just need that confidence as you head down Forest Elbow. This is where the speed counts in the car. It's kind of the compromises you have to make at the top, and here you need the speed. You need to keep pushing. I saw the real life cars will do 305 kilometers an hour down this Conrad Straight heading into the chase. The chase is basically flat in all these cars. You don't even think about it. Sometimes people say it shouldn't even be a corner as you head into turn 21. So that's really it with the circuit. You need to keep pushing, you need to find your balance, but it is a fantastic circuit for racing because the strengths of each car tend to get highlighted. Some cars are stronger at the top and twisty stuff, some cars will be stronger in the straights, but ultimately it's about how the driver can pilot this car, as Cody Sherratt puts it, P5. Still very tight at the top, David, but already we're seeing some interesting qualifying laps.
Yeah, we certainly are, and seeing that Philippe Minard jumping up there, George Boothby up there with third position, Tommy Rozier in there as well, so all knocking down Cody Sherratt down a couple of positions, but it is a very, very firm favourite with the Ferraris from the looks of things there. You've got, 6-7 Ferraris in the top 10, the only other manufacturers being McLaren, Honda and Mercedes, but qualifying has finished. The checker flag waves, so any drivers who have started the lap by that point can finish their lap, which is pretty much all of them right now. George Boothby won't be taking pole position. That, again, is a shocker. And while we're waiting on these final laps coming in here, another topic of conversation here, Tapello, George Boothby over the past couple of races, where we've used to seeing him having a stranglehold on this championship, that's not the case anymore. The last races he's had to kind of settle for second or third position, and it's not like he's gotten any slower at all, such as the level of performance and the level of competition in this championship.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And it's I think that's something that can be puzzling sometimes for a driver, in that you're still doing everything in the same way you used to. You're still quick, you still go through your normal routines, but everyone around you is getting faster, they're getting more competitive. And this is where a lot of drivers can lose momentum in a season, lose their positions, start to overdrive, start to do additional things that they don't normally do, and that messes up with their routine. I think the key thing for George Boothby is to try and maximize. If you're going to finish P4, finish P4. If you're going to finish P3, finish P3. Yes, you're trying to push for the best position possible, but you also need a bad result, highlighting on bad there, to still be a positive net result. So George Boothby just needs to maintain. P3 is not terrible. He can do something in the race. He can try and work something out, but this is where he needs to be in order to maintain that lead atop the championship and make sure that he's there when we go back to Silverstone for the final round of the season.
And on that final round, my goodness me, I think we're in for an absolute barnstormer. Given how close things are at the top of the championship, it could really, really all come down to the wire. But these are the important rounds right here, as qualifying is done and dusted. While that is the case, and we're counting our days down or counting the weeks down now. We've only got 5 weeks left to go after this. I can't believe we're already nearly into March. Goodness me. But, we're rolling on. We're going to have the season 2 done and dusted. I think a lot of drivers at this point are now eagerly anticipating what is going to be happening and what's going to be announced for Season 3. Is there going to be a Season 3? How's it going to look and all that sort of stuff? Because I think they've genuinely enjoyed the challenge of this championship. But one man who will be licking the lips is going to be Grantis Caracas at the pole at the front of that field. Now remember, while that is the case, he is really going to be wanting to try and get these points here, because third place in the championship, he's behind George Boothby by about 45 points. But here we are down the grid then. He's going to be on pole position alongside Philippe Minard. Then it's George Boothby on row 2 alongside Tommy Rozier. You can see them side by side, just on the right and on the left as well. Then it is Cody Sherratt alongside Alexander. Now, that one of Jack Alexander, that is, we'll be speaking a lot about him tonight. It's been a difficult couple of weeks for him. Hopefully he can get the cool head on and keep himself out of trouble. Sakari Lehtinen is on row 4 alongside Karppinen. Then on row 5 you've got Noah Ader with Luke Addison. Then on row 6 it's Tariq Adam with Dennis Vietschork. Albin Manson is alongside Valentin Barrier, who will be looking to get himself back up into that top 5 and a top 10 charge. As we saw last week from Valentin, he is definitely the man for that. Abe Santima in 15th position with Simone Seminara keeping them company on row 8. Row 9 is going to be Noel Hatche alongside Ronaldo Bursma, alongside them is going to be Clifford and Samir Foch on row 10. And then at the back, you've got Petrovic and Stein as well in that 420 Mercedes and the number 10 Aston Martin. So a fair few marks throughout the grid as we've seen this season, but this seems to be a track here Tapello really does favour those Ferraris. As I said, you've got, 7 of them in the top 10, 8 of them in the top 11.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's worth highlighting that inherently, I think the strength of the Ferraris is in the twisty stuff. We've been seeing throughout the season, it has really exceptional mid-corner rotation, and seems like the drivers that have chosen Ferrari for the season have kind of figured out how to drive, which is kind of cool. That's what league racing is about. That's what a long season is about. It's about figuring out the strengths of your car. So it seems like they've finally found a way to drive these Ferraris that makes it work for them. I spoke about it on the onboard that yes, to kind of be strong in the twisties, you're going to sacrifice a bit of speed in the straights, but you can make it up. So they found their balance, and somehow the Ferraris are striking the sweet spot today, and it's going to be very, very difficult for someone like Tommy Rezier, who's just sandwiched between all these Ferraris, to try and make an impression with the Mercedes. But that's what being a driver is, and you never quit. You always put the effort in, and sometimes the race will come to you.
Well, here's hoping that is going to be the case. A lot of these drivers are going to hope that it all comes to them in the course of this race. They're all making their way down on the formation lap to Hell Corner. Tapello, I'm going to throw you under the bus immediately and say, how many laps do you think we get in before it all goes horribly, horribly wrong here at Mount Bathurst, at Mount Panorama?
I think these guys have found their thing. I think we're going to clean first lap, something on lap 2.
Do you? Here's another question then. Do you think we will have more than 15 cars finishing this race?
How many do we have? 22. Yeah, we will.
So our broadcast producer is trying to throw in an extra caveat there, saying, on the lead lap. No, I'm saying finish full stop. I'm just saying, like, 4 wheels still going round. I'm hoping that is the case, but the problem is that if it's an accident towards the back, then by the very odds you've got less chance of being involved. But if it's an accident towards the front, well, and the other thing is as well is from watching the real life Bathurst race at the 12 hours just a couple of weeks ago, we know how wrong these GT3 cars can get it and how badly it does go. But meanwhile, Grantis Caracas then in the lead of the field. He's going to be making his way around through this formation lap, and again a nice chance for the drivers to get acclimatised with the current weather situation, with the current temperature, with the current feeling of the setup of the car. Because remember, for a lot of these drivers, their race setup will be massively different to what they run in qualifying. Maybe it'll be a little bit more aggressive on the tyres in qualifying. Maybe it'll be a little bit more unstable in qualifying, just to make sure that they can eke out the last end. But you really want to have a predictable setup, that you can have a safe setup in for the race. That's certainly what I think is going to be the order of the day. Beautiful tracking shot here from our broadcast team. A huge thank you as always to Daniel Costello behind the scenes here, and a huge thank you as well to IMB Racewear, who are our race partners for this week. That does mean that there will be 2 giveaways coming up at the end of the stream for the drivers this week, and they will be getting entered into that. So that is a participation prize for drivers that I'm pretty sure it's something like they are on about they're on the league lap that they get entered into that. But Tapello, the drivers coming through the final corner here onto Conrod Straight, then what do we think is going through the drivers' minds while they're getting ready for this race here?
Keep calm, I think is the key one. And we speak about this, especially like you're saying, a lot of drivers' setups are going to be different from what they had in qualifying, because that's just how you want it. You really want to maximize in qualifying, but the race you want something neutral, something predictable, something safe. And within this warm-up lap, I think it's what all the drivers are thinking about. How do I tackle the first corner? How do I tackle the getaway? Am I comfortable? And this is a weird thing to say, but am I seated comfortably in my chair, in my rig? Because I don't know about you guys, but I find that if I'm not comfortable where I'm sitting, I'll lose the race completely. So it's kind of, you need everything to be in zen, everything to be in balance. And I think that's what all these drivers have going through their minds. They've kind of done the work in terms of setup. They kind of roughly calculated their strategy. Now it's just to be calm, survive the first 2-3 laps, and see where the race comes from there.
Well, let's see where the race does go, because we are about to get underway for another hour race. Round 8 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship is about to get underway. Grantas Caracas leads the field of 22 cars. Rounds here at Bathurst. And the lights are red on the gantry. They'll go green as soon as he comes up to the line. The green flag waves and away he goes. That's a fantastic start from Caracas. Menard doesn't get a chance to overtake there, but Boothby and Razier fighting it out going into Hell Corner there. That looks like that is Razier getting bumped down then back to that 4th position. It's a run up the mountain stretch here. And here comes George Boothby. He's not wasting any time at all. This is very different from what we saw at Kota. He did have a little look out there, but not able to make anything as they come up through turn 2 for the first time here. Again, all having to watch out for these cold tyres that the cars are going to be on as they come through 3 and 4 coming up the hill. This is where the danger flashpoints are going to be, especially if you try to go too wide coming up the hill, as dangerous things can and often do happen here in the first 10 minutes of the race. But everyone's making their way through as we go and watch Sakari Lettinen here in that Honda. They're all single file, and dare I say it's trying to behave here, to Bello.
Yeah, for sure. I think they were. Curse of the commentators not going to work this week. But looking at Sakari Lettinen, look, the Honda hasn't looked that strong in the start of the race, but definitely in the second half of the race, that Honda just comes alive. As we see Tariq Adam kind of fighting in unfamiliar territory at P11, we see they're kind of consistent in the top 10, and I think they're going to pick it up because we know Tariq Adam finishes races really well. The second half, they tend to come alive, and that's kind of their key thing as a driver. But Conrad straight, no incidents so far. Cars are keeping it well in check. Grantas Caracas is just run away at the front. It seems like his car is running additional horsepower just by the way he's pulled away, and that's what you want when you qualify and pull in, when you start a race from P1. You just kind of want to open that gap, and then you can relax and find your rhythm from there. But David, so far so good. Brilliant start from these guys, keeping in tune with developing as the season goes on, and now they've kind of nailed down how to be calm, how to be precise in the opening laps of a race.
Yeah, I've got, again, for the second week in a row, a very restrained, a very neutered opening lap there. Single file seems to be the order of the day. Is a lot of fuel saving, a lot of thoughts going on coming up that mountain straight about where they can possibly make this happen here. A little bit further down, you've got a move that looks like that could be Luke Harrison having a little look on the outside there, but I'm honestly a little bit lost for words at this point here, to Pillow, because this is not usually what we see here at the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. We've seen it last week at Kota, where it's almost a completely different second season. It's almost like a completely different field here as the cars and the drivers now very well behaved and very gentle with the cars as well.
Yeah, look, we did kind of commentate on a series called the Kaizen Championship, and as we've spoken about multiple times, the Kaizen principle of doing, checking, learning, redoing, getting better. This is what the drivers are doing, and we spoke about this. It's that change in mentality that we can see in how they approach these races, how they approach kind of overtaking maneuvers, how they drive around each other. They've become so aware that, you know, very few things seem to phase them on track. They know where the other cars are, they know how to position themselves, and they just know how to survive and keep going in a race. And I think it's brilliant. Of course, a lot of people will say it takes the fun out of, you know, an incident-packed race, but I think that makes the race more technical. We start to see the minutia of a race, the strategy. When do you take a pit stop? Overcuts, undercuts. I love that side of racing, David. I don't know about you.
Yeah, do as well. Again, it adds to the pressure, it adds to the curiosity with this, and also a little bit of the tension, because you get the feeling that chaos is never too far away here. But it's this part here, like coming up the mountain straight. I don't think I've ever remembered, because we had it with Kota as well, with the first couple of laps where they're so pinpoint precise, they're so very well behaved here. I've got no doubt that it will absolutely descend later on in the race here, but yeah, it's a very, very different breed, very, enjoyable on the grander scheme of things to watch as well, when you know these drivers and you know the fact that this isn't normally how things go, so it makes it a little bit tense, because you're like, something's got to go, something's got to give here. And when it came to Kota last week, when that bubble burst and everybody decided to fight for themselves, my God, did it get really, really spicy really, really quickly.
And look, we know what Mount Panorama serves up. We know whenever a mistimed 10 in point, extra throttle when you shouldn't, it's so easy to hit the wall on the circuit. That precision ultimately becomes your armor against anything the circuit can throw at you. So we'll see it probably as the race goes on. The drivers get a bit fatigued, it gets long in the race. They need to focus on more things. You will see some drivers bump off the wall, and like I said, sometimes you're very lucky, you can bump on the wall and keep going, nothing really happens. But sometimes you really do make a serious impact with the wall, and that can mess up a race. But for now, 6 minutes into this race, and these drivers are doing a fantastic job of tackling this very difficult circuit, and they're looking comfortable, and everyone is just looking calm, ready to push, and just biding their time, looking for their moment to try and spring an overtake on an unsuspecting car in front.
Yeah, that's another point to bring up, actually, is while these cars do look like they're just going single file round the mountain, just being able to actually stick to the other cars here requires some level of pace and some level of ability and skill as well, to not take out the car in front of you and not take out the cars behind you as well. It's a demanding circuit, it's a challenging circuit, and it's one of those that really puts the test to a lot of the drivers. As Tariq Adam there was having a little look at Dennis Vietschork, I'm not sure if there was ever going to be any move on there, but it's certainly one of the drivers' favourites, purely because of the chaos and the excitement that it brings for the drivers. That whole thing of, like, if we can go on board actually with any of the drivers, if we go on board with Timu Karppinen, for instance, here, you'd see how close they are to disaster at any time here. It opens up, fair enough, a little tiny bit there, just coming over Skyline, but down through the S's here, it's like a wall on one side, a wall on the other side. You've got a car right in front of you, you've got a car behind you. The box in which your car can operate, the box in which you can operate as a sim racing driver here is absolutely minuscule, and it changes every single lap, every single corner here.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think we have a car that's gone off. There we go. And we saw it last week as well at Kota, in just how difficult following can be, because we saw a lot of drivers missing their braking points because they were following so close to the cars in front, and they kind of had to be more reactive than active in what's happening around the braking zones. But as you saw there, as we were riding on board, it's so tight. It's so tight, and it gets so difficult. But as we see here, Tariq Adam is kind of fighting to assert themselves on position in the circuit so far. And it's Valentin Barrier with a car that we said has looked solid all season, slightly different qualifying position, but he's looking to build up again. And this battle is one that's going to set up the next, 5 laps, just because these guys are so competitive, and they're going to try and kind of find their place. As we see Dennis Vietschork pulling out to the side to try and defend, side by side into Quarry. This is very, very tricky, but let's see. The drivers are doing well once again. They've held their lines, but Valentin Barrier has gotten ahead of Dennis Vietschork in the McLaren. So again, that Aston Martin now starting to pick up pace, starting to look solid, and he has Tariq Adam in his sights. But I hear in my ear that we're getting a replay, ladies and gentlemen. So let's see what happened, because we did see an incident with the car, as we see the white, beautiful, beautiful livery. Actually, I love this livery. But the S's. Oh no! I did not expect to see that. I thought we'd just get a car kissing the wall, but full-on carnage, flipped over, car in the air. That's Bathurst for you.
Yeah, that was a wall ride and a half. That's very reminiscent, actually, of the BMW in the real life 12 hours, where it was the tail end of that car that was riding the wall right round it, except that was the entire front side of the car that was riding on the wall here. So it's basically, he's just got too much power coming down into Skyline, brakes too late, car's unsettled, and bang, straight to the scene of the accident on your side. And well, again, I've never really seen that one happen, because of course vertical flips are something that you don't really see here in Assetto Corsa Competizione, just because of the way that it goes. The reason for that, and again, this is speculation, so please don't take this as fact, but my understanding is the same as Gran Turismo back in the day, was that they would get the license from the manufacturers to use the cars in the game, but they were not allowed to show the cars in states of damage, because the manufacturer didn't want them kind of being associated with that. Now, it could be the same with that, but what's more likely is that it could be from the championship organisers or from the actual developers who've decided that it would look much better just to have, you know, limited damage on the cars, and to nerf some of the more exuberant physical abilities for the cars to go flying and hurtling through there. Goodness knows, over the years in real life we've seen some pretty wild GT3 accidents, so it is certainly possible, but just not in the game so much. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe Tapelo allows the drivers to and everybody else to kind of focus on the racing and the cars staying the right side up than anything else.
Yeah, look, I think what's often been the criticism of sim racing, especially from the really passionate real life motorsport guys, is the decreased level of jeopardy. You know, they always tend to say you can push in a sim race because, you know, if you have an accident, you hit a wall, you just reset and you carry on. So that's about it. But I actually love that element, because pushing the limits of what's capable in a game, in a racing game, is how you can gauge yourself on how good you are. And we see what these drivers are doing, as we just saw an overtake there. A lot of them are now finding their speed, they're finding their position. We're seeing now the different battles, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, and now we're going to see some overtakes for the next 10 minutes, because I've seen these drivers kind of set things up, and now they look like they're attacking each other to try and get the overtake, find their position, and set themselves up for the period just before the pit stops. It's all about maximizing your pace so that your pit stop is not detrimental to your race, because we've seen this season how strategic the pit stops have been. So trying to find the pace right now, setting up for the pit stop, is crucial in how you're going to finish this race.
100%. The other thing that's going to be crucial here is the fact that we are very likely going to have some traffic coming up in the next 10-15 minutes, as Petrovic has come out of pit lane and decided to get back going. And, you know, all credit to them. They've had an instant and they've decided to keep on going. That's absolutely fantastic to see. Some very valuable race experience to be taken. And, well, to be honest, we'll come back to that in a second, because that was Tommy Reserve getting very, very, very wide. There's somebody into the escape route. That's Cody Sherritt. Oh my goodness me, this is where it's starting to get a little bit dicey now. We've got more chaos, and there's a huge accident. That's Timu Karppinen then at the bottom of the S's. Thankfully, just the one car involved in that, but that's what, 3 cars now that are getting very, very loose at the top of Skyline here. Could this now be that the tyres are switched on and the driver's just pushing that little bit more here to Pello? Because, you know, for all of those drivers to have an issue at the same spot, it screams to me that they're now starting to light their tyres up a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's definitely that. I think you've got it spot on there. You know, like I'm saying, trying to find the pace setting up for the pit stops now, it means you're pushing more, you're faster, you're braking harder. So I think that's what we're seeing with the drivers. But I hear we've got a replay coming up of the incident with Karppinen. You see a lot of drivers running wide over those curbs, looking a bit sketchy, but as he heads into the SS, he had to really stamp on the brakes to avoid an accident there. And unfortunately, as you saw, as they went on the brakes, it unsettled the rear. All the weight moved to the front of the car, touched the wall, and unfortunately they were swiped as well. So it happens. There's really not a lot of room for evasive maneuvers if a car goes off in front of you. Sometimes you can, but most times that's why accidents at Bathurst tend to be multi-car pileups because of that. It's very tight and there's really nowhere to go sometimes but through your competitor.
A lot of the time it's unsighted as well. It's unsighted in terms of, you know, when you come down over the hill, you go for your spot and then suddenly there's a car just right in the middle of the track, so there's very little that you can actually do at that point other than, as you say, go through your competitor. It's definitely not a thing through choice, but you know, maybe surprisingly even more for me is the fact that Teemu Karppinen is still keeping on going right now. One of the things that I heard from our broadcast team was a little discussion on whether there's damage to this front left cut of Simone Seminara's number 12 car. I don't think it is. I think that's actually their livery. We'll have a look at it. We're being told that it is, but it looks like some sort of snakeskin on the front left of that livery. But either way, chasing down Abe Santima and the car in front in 14th position. So this is a fight for 14th and 15th, and Teemu Karppinen has said enough is enough. That car is brought back in the pit, so I get the feeling that that is another hit that's been happening to Teemu Karppinen coming over the hill. But look at the gap now between Grantis Caracas and Philip Minnaar. 3.125 seconds as we've got under 3/4 of an hour to go in round 8 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship here from Bathurst Mount Panorama. Your race leader coming through Hell Corner, and George Boothby again. He's just having to sit behind Philippe Minnaar. Tommy Rozier, I'm sure, would love to have a little go at this, as well as Jack Alexander. But do you think that maybe you'd be better if you're one of these four cars? Would you want to make a move just now, or would you want to wait until after the pit stops to do it?
Oh, that's such a difficult thing to answer, right? Because you know when you're making, you know, like Grantis Caracas has just moved ahead of everyone. He's really running his own race at this point. And you always have this feeling as a racer that everyone around you is holding you up. You can't sometimes just forget about your pace. Do you make the move? Do you keep it going? I think it's one of those situations where you put as much pressure as you can, but you don't really force a move. You kind of hold position, and if a move comes, someone goes wide or they outbreak themselves, something like that, I think there you go for the move. As we see, Ronaldo Bursma must have had an incident with his McLaren. Oh, I see some damage on that car, so it must have been a big contact with the wall here as we ride on board with Simone Seminara. Oh, the McLarens are having a tough time in the S's, and I've realized this. It actually happens quite often, and a lot of drivers do really well to hide this. As you brake into turn 11, just at the start of the S's, you brake so hard that a lot of the weight of the car moves to the front and the rear gets really light. That's why you'll see a lot of cars trying to correct and then they take the escape road. But it is a very tricky situation to get right because of the way the circuit is. It's at the top and it comes down, so braking there is a bit tricky. But we have a replay coming up, and I think that's going to be the incident with Ronaldo Bursma in the McLaren. Let's see what happened there.
So he was coming into two then. He was on the grass there, Tapello, and oh my God! Absolutely destroys that Lamborghini as well behind him there of Clifford. It looked like it started on the entry to that corner, I think, there. It looked like he got a couple of wheels in the grass. The car was shaking about a bit there and then clips the curbs and straight into the wall.
Yeah, and that tends to happen, right? When you go over the curb sometimes. And this is the tricky thing with going over curbs, because sometimes the fastest way around a circuit is to kind of take the curbs, run on them. But sometimes your car, it's sort of like it gets hooked in a really weird way. And there's nothing you can do but be a passenger, because then it snaps on you and you either veer off into the wall or you're hitting another car. but that's what happens sometimes on curbs like that.
Now, I'm noticing that Petrovic is now just ahead of our race leader, Genisus Caracas, as they come over Skyline. So I'm watching that part of the minimap like an absolute hawk just now. Caracas looked like he was a little bit too close to that wall on the left-hand side there. No harm, no foul, keeps going and gets the way out of Forest Elba. I've got no doubt that Petrovic will move out the way and let this car past. Although it is a little bit further forward, so maybe doesn't quite need to just now. Certainly, you're not going to want to have that. Oh, that's probably not an ideal place to have the overtake. But either way, it's done, and Caracas puts a car a lap down. As we've got a car into pit lane, that is Ronaldo Boersma, who has went in to get some much-needed repairs. This is the fight for second place just now. Philippe Minard, George Boothby and Tommy Rozier, with Jack Alexander just behind. And again, on boards as we've got our pit window open, so cars do have to take tyres and fuel, and they've got 20 minutes in which to do so. So already we've done 20 minutes of this race, 1/3 of the race done, and in the books here. It's gone by in the blink of an eye, you've got to say, Tapello.
Yeah, and I don't know whether that's the pace of these guys or the relative effectiveness with which they're doing their laps. 10 laps in, 20 minutes done, and it's still looking good. The guys are following each other at a really, really excellent pace. And yes, we've seen a few incidents, but one thing we have to highlight, ladies and gentlemen, is just how good these guys are being consistent. I hear we've got another replay coming up. Let's see what happened here. Okay, so we've got Noel Hake coming up. Oh, you see, there you go. You sometimes get that twitch on the rear, and as you're trying to control it, trying to get control of the car, it just snaps even more, and you're kissing the walls at Bathurst. Like I said, it is deceptively tight. You think you have space until you're hitting the wall and you realize there really wasn't enough space to try and gather your car, and that happens a lot on the circuit, David.
Yeah, and trust me, kissing the walls here at Bathurst is in no way romantic or nostalgic in any way whatsoever, as Noel Hake comes into pit lane. Now, the only saving grace for him is that this pit stop will count as his pit stop for the entirety of the race, so he won't have to come back in, but it will cost him a little bit of time to get that car repaired. Meanwhile, further down, this is the battle for 8th position. You could see Luke Addison, Noah Eder and Tariq Adam all fight it out as we're back up to P2. This is Philippe Minard, George Boothby and Tommy Rozier. As there you go, in the background then you can see Jack Alexander from that second place fight decides to come in, and he is one of the leading cars to come into pits this time by. The overcut seems to be very, very popular over the past couple of weeks here at Tapello. We've seen cars trying to leave it as late as possible. I wonder if this decision is going to come back to haunt Jack Alexander.
Yeah, look, I think it's one of those situations. You're right. We have seen the overcut be the preferred strategy of choice, and it's worked really, really well. So if you're Jack Alexander in this situation and you've just gone for a pit that's relatively early with how the rest of the grid is going, your only hope is to come outside of traffic, clear air, no one in front of you, so you can really maximize on the pace and try and make that undercut work. Otherwise, I think the guys that have kind of excelled at getting the overcut right will just swallow you up on circuit, and they will have the pace to kind of match your early pit stop. So the hope for Alexander, free air, no distractions, just complete lap after lap of precision driving. That's what they need to make the strategy work.
That's not actually a bad shout here, because last lap from Alexander is Sakari letting in. We'll come back to that thought in a second. Just at the top of Skyline, a very dangerous moment, and that is more cars in there. There's Santima. That's Simone Seminara that's caught up in that one, as Santima trying to get that car recovered here. My goodness me, that is a huge moment there. And I'm just trying to double check here, because I have got a feeling that Jack Alexander wasn't anywhere near that, so he'll live to tell another day and avoid that one. But looked like about 4 or 5 cars involved, quite a few jumping back to pit lane. Certainly we've got Ronaldo Steen, Sakari Lehtinen into pit lane as well. Well, that was a horrifying moment there.
Yeah, that's typical Bathurst for you. Like we've always said, a car spins off and you really, really struggle to avoid them, get out of the way. And, you know, actually fair play to Sakari Lehtinen, because what they've done was something I think is very commendable. They didn't try to reposition their car. They're really sensible in trying to let everyone else kind of find their way around them. Unfortunately, it didn't work, as we saw. But sometimes what really exacerbates an issue like that is the drivers had an incident trying to reposition themselves, you know, trying to do the turn, get their car set right, and that causes more problems as drivers try and avoid them, they're in motion. So sometimes the best thing you can really do, yes, you're going to lose a lot of positions, you're going to lose race time, but the best thing you can do is just to let the car sit there until everyone has gone past, and then try and remaneuver yourself back in line, back onto the right way, and then you drive off instead of trying to move mid collision, mid live race, and then things happen.
Oh, this is absolutely huge. Philippe Minard comes out of the pit lane from second position, and who does he have on his tail? Jack Alexander from 5th position is right up there with Philippe Minard. That is an amazing decision there from Jack, and it's paid off dividends right now. That also means that George Boothby and Tommy Rozier possibly going to get caught up in this little battle here, but that is a hell of a jump there from Jack. So I don't know if that was on raw pace alone or whether or not that was an issue for Philippe Minard going into pit lane. But let's check out a replay here of a previous incident. This is likely what happened at the top of the hill. Oh yeah, that car's gone before it even gets to Skyline, rolls down into the wall and just keeps it nice and steady. The thing for me is yellow flags. There is a yellow flag, and you can see right at the last there. Yeah, well, that was an overtake on the yellow flag. That is outrageous. Nah, come on. That actually didn't happen to Pillow.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. I know the stewards have got their pens and paper ready, and they're noting that down, because that is dangerous driving. Yellow flag is really visible at that point. You just had to hold your line. But yes, they had to hold their line. That's not what you do, and that's what made the situation way worse. But one incident aside, let's get back to the brilliant pit stop strategy that Jack Alexander has had, because now the pressure's on Philippe Minard to keep that car in a straight line, keep it between the lines, away from the walls, because the pressure from Jack Alexander is palpable. The gap is minimal. The pressure's on. This is turning out to be a brilliant race so far for the people that have taken early pit stops. And I know for sure if George Boothby, Grantas Caracas could see this, they would be shaking in their boots, because their pit stops might put them in spitting distance of these drivers right here.
Well, there you go. There's another piece of the puzzle falls in. So Jack does the jump there on Tariq Adam, sorry, not Tariq Adam, excuse me, Tommy Rozier, who comes out of pit lane. He jumps back to the tail end of that group as well. And of course, with these two being teammates for that low fuel motorsport project at Kane outfit, I think they'll be more interested in helping each other up through the hill. So very, very good news that those two have found each other, because, oh no, that's Abe Santima. That was at the top of the hill. That was from 4th position, and that car is absolutely destroyed, and he's gone. He's out of the race. We're down to 20 cars. So that is horrible to see there. And well, Abe Santima, who was doing so well, has decided that enough is enough, probably with the amount of damage that's left on that car. But we've got pretty much a halfway split of cars that have been into the pits and cars that still have to come into the pits, with just 11 minutes left to go to Pello in this pit stop window.
Yeah, shaking. If you haven't taken a pit stop at this point, shaking, my friend. If you could see what's happening on the circuit, because I think we might see a week where the undercut looks like the stronger, pit stop strategy. But it's all right. This is the racing. Sometimes the race will come to you, but I hear we've got another replay coming up, and let's see what we have here.
Yeah, this is going to be Abe Santima, I think.
This curb is catching a lot of drivers out today. It really is. Look, it hasn't led to a crash all the time, but we've seen a lot of drivers kind of twitch over it, and some drivers in trying to control it. And we have Noel Hatche again in the wall, another incident. So not having a really good race around Mount Panorama for Noel there, because they've kissed the wall twice, and I think this time it's going to be a difficult one, because I think, yes, they have served their mandatory pit stop, so any pit stop now is just adding to their total race time, and it just pulls them further and further away from the pack.
Do you know what's really awkward is they only just got going ahead of our race leader Genisus Caracas, who is about half a second or a second behind them. That could have been absolute disaster with that car stranded in the middle of the pack, but thankfully we've seen better of it as Ronaldo Boersma has went into pit lane. I get the feeling that that is after an incident. That was a bit of a wobble there from both Philippe Minard and from Jack Alexander here as the two of them make their way over through into Skyline, then onto the brakes. Let's have a quick replay then of what happened to presumably what happened to Noel Hatche. Comes over Skyline, over the top of the hill, clips the curb on the left, and well, he gets through the first part of the S is fine. Oh, the tail end clips the wall. Oh, that's a very unpleasant place to be there, Tapello.
Yeah, look, sometimes the rears of these cars have a mind of their own, and they'll start pulling you towards a wall even if you don't want to be there. But that's just how cars are sometimes. But as we see a lot of pit stops now in the top drivers, we've seen Genisus Caracas come in, Cody Sharrett, Luke Addison, Alexander Manson, but George Boothby interestingly staying out, trying to play the long game, going for that really big overcut. Will it work? Will it not work? Tune in, stay tuned, because trust me, ladies and gentlemen, in this final 28 minutes, this race is going to come alive.
Well, perhaps unsurprisingly, Genisus Caracas does stay in the lead of the race, but the gap has been cut down quite significantly. It was around about 5 seconds beforehand. I think that's down to around about 4 seconds now with those, as Luke Addison now is up into P3. I don't think that's right. No, he's down at P8, so that'll be as the time screen on the left-hand side sorts itself out. But either way, what a race we have had so far just now. It's been really interesting. We were watching the first 5 minutes thinking, what is this? Cars in single fire, and then, what can I say? It's yeah, let's have a look. Right, while I'm seeing this, it looks like Jack Alexander has got ahead of Philippe Minard. Now, we saw the attempts that Alexander was having at going through the chase and going into the final corner there. So that's obviously been up the mountain straight, and it would make sense because, Philippe Minard doesn't seem to be as fast at the moment as Jack Alexander, as George Boothby does come into the pits then with 7.5 minutes left to go in the pit stop window. 27.5 minutes left to go in the race. We're already past the halfway point of this 8th round of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship, and so much is still on the plate right now. But Genisus Caracas does look like he is going to re-inherit the lead. That one looks an absolute given with the pace that he has right now. But this fight right now, very intriguing. Jack Alexander though, where is this story going to end up? Because Samir Foch into pit lane as well, and the two of them coming through. So where is your race leader? Where does he come out? I think he is already out. He's still to come through. So let's go and have another replay of a previous incident. So this is what happened then between the two of them. Jack Alexander getting that position. So this is the run up through the mountain straight, goes to the outside, is it? Yeah, so that's obviously a planned move.
Yeah, not a lot of resistance on that one. So you can see it's kind of teammates understanding who's the faster car at the moment and just letting them by, and just, I'll kind of follow you. You maintain the pace, I'll try and keep pace with you. That's teamwork at the end of the day, and that's something we love to see because, yeah, look, if you watch motorsport, a lot of the times teammates do not want to work with each other. So that's brilliant teamwork to see, just to have the eyes on the prize and know that a race is happening, and sometimes the team goal is bigger than the individual goal. So I like that actually.
Huge success for the overcut for George Boothby now, who is in P2 after the pit stops and by 3.1 seconds. Remember, he was held up in this little battle there, so that is a huge boost for them. It's a 5-second time penalty to the 25 car for causing a collision on lap 12 between the 25 and the 30. So that was Sakara Lehtinen that was in that one. And, well, that's a bit of a strange one, because the 25 is Dennis Vietshork, who is no longer in the race. So we're now down to 19 cars. You can see Vietshork scampering out server here either.
No, I think the stewards just gave him a parting gift there. But, as always, the race is coming alive. And yes, now that we're going to see some penalties being dished out to drivers, that brings a new element, a new consideration for drivers in the race. But as we're riding on board with Tommy Rizia, he's been stuck behind these two Ferraris, looking at them, having their synchronized moves, playing the team game. But you have to believe Tommy Rizia is just trying to find a way, an inch, a mistake, a corner where there's a gap the size of a Mercedes AMG GT3 race car. That's all Tommy Rizia is looking for at this moment. They don't care about the niceties, the teamwork. They just want a gap the size of a Mercedes AMG GT3 that they're going to put their car through and go for position, because that is the mentality of a racer. And trust me when I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, all these entrants have that mentality of a racer. They are looking for that gap for that car, and they will go through it because they want to finish as high as possible, because this league, this season is tight, it's tricky. I think we might actually see a battle till the last round this year.
Yeah, I have to absolutely agree with you. The way that it was looking so one way at the start of the season, and now it's looking way too close to call. I think you're absolutely spot on. I think it's going to be a last race shootout to decide it. That's always the way you want these championships to go, to keep the interest there and to keep everybody's attention there as well. But I need to clarify an earlier mistake that I made. It is George Boothby is only 1 second ahead of Jack Alexander, not 3 seconds. That was the gap between Boothby and Caracas. That's now up to 4.3. So Boothby is actually losing a lot of time to Caracas here, but also losing a lot of time to Jack Alexander. I've got a feeling in the next 5 minutes we are going to see Alexander versus Boothby, and this will be one for the ages right now here at Bathurst Mount Panorama, because they are two very well skilled athletes out there on the cyber circuit, and I think there's going to be quite a bit of fireworks between these two potentially.
Yeah, and I think very interesting from Grantis Caracas actually pulling away from George Boothby is that we actually have seen, come to think of it, in the past 3 rounds, Grantis Caracas has looked at their best just after the pit stop. The first few laps after the pit stop is where Grantis does his best work. It's kind of like the refresh for the car is a refresh for him, and he just makes it work. His pace is unbelievable, and that's what we're seeing. Now, you're right, George Boothby will be under pressure. That's going to be the stern test for him. Can he defend this P2 either by outright defending, or can he defend it with pace? Maybe George Boothby is just buying some time to bed those tires in before he goes for that eventual push to the finish line. Just trying to set himself up for that ultimate push. I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. I'm very interested to see how that pans out, because it has the potential to be a cracker on circuit.
Yeah, certainly does, and I am absolutely here for it. I am ready for that to happen as we are watching Roland Stein then, another driver who is really emblazoning that principle of Kaizen as he smashes into the wall. We'll ignore that, but basically turning up here, brand new to the championship at the end of season 1, has come on in leaps and bounds and just basically does their own thing, just isn't the fastest, isn't right up at the front. As we see a side-by-side move then. This is two teammates on each other. Philip Minnaar takes the position from Jack Alexander. The two of them charging down to try and catch George Boothby. You can see Tommy Rozier in the background. He fancies having a little bit of this as well. But meanwhile, we've got 21 minutes left to go. It looks like it's a very comfortable lead right now. 4.3 seconds for Grantis Caracas. George Boothby in second position, dropping back even further, but that gap now has gone up as a result of those two fighting. It's now over a second here just now, but Minnaar maybe has the tyres and maybe thinks that he can help pull Jack Alexander up this hill.
Yeah, look, I think these guys, they're thinking about the game. They're thinking who's faster at different points of the game. Ultimately, they're not jeopardizing each other's races by these overtakes. They're actually doing it to their benefit. And if they are doing the team game, it's all about getting the quicker car at that phase of the race in front to try and make an impression. And I think they're picking up on that. Maybe George Boothby's a bit slower, maybe he's not having the best run. So because they're looking a bit vulnerable, let the faster car try and have a go and see if they can't get a move. So if that's the team game, I'm loving it. They're playing chess while we seem to be playing checkers.
3D chess, 4D chess, 5D chess, we're seeing it all played tonight. And I'm very curious because look at the gap now that Philip Minnaar has opened up over Jack Alexander just now. Now, granted, that will kind of quieten down as they get towards the Conrod Straight here. My question though is, what does Tommy Rozier have left in the tank here? Because it does look like Jack Alexander's maybe just burned through his tyres a little bit too quickly here, and he's having to save a little bit because he's been fed to the wolves in the form of Tommy Rozier. Meanwhile, behind him, Cody Sherritt is 3.5 seconds behind in 6th position. Let's round out the top 10. Luke Addison in 7th position, Noah Eder in 8th, Tariq Adam in 9th, and Valentin Barrier in 10th position. That's how it's looking here at round 8 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. Less than 20 minutes to go. Your race leader, Grantis Caracas, streaking off into the sunset again, maybe having to deal with some lap traffic. The number 5 is right in front of them, Ronaldo Boersma. That car has been into the wall, but is pretty much just keeping things on the straight and narrow as of just now. But either way, it's now of the case here, Tapello, where we've done 2/3 of the race. The drivers now really looking to kind of consolidate whatever they can get. Maybe not going absolutely nuts and taking too much in terms of the chances.
Yeah, look, I think we're reaching that phase, right? We're reaching that phase where you start to do the math. Is an overtake really to your benefit, or is holding position the better alternative? And unfortunately, there is no right formula to choose for a driver. It really is a spur of the moment decision. How do you feel? How do you see the race? So it's funny because sometimes as the commentary team, we'll go on one tangent, right? You hold position, and then we see 4 overtakes. Sometimes we become confident and say, oh, no, you should go for the overtake, and then we just see drivers hold position and try and solidify their finishes. So today, I'm going to let Christy put his neck on the line, ladies and gentlemen, and he'll try and figure out which strategy is best for the last 17 minutes of this race.
I think, well, for the likes of Caracas, right, he doesn't need to push. He will push. He'll not send it over every single corner here. But if you're in the position, right, let's take, say, Tariq Adam, who's behind both Noah Eder and Luke Addison. In that case, 100%, you are going pedal to the metal, you are going absolutely balls out just to try and get a position done, given that you could make not just 1, but 2 positions. But for the likes of Luke Addison, right, he's got 2 cars behind him, but he doesn't have anybody in front of him. He's got 5 seconds to Cody Sherritt, at which point you're kind of, do you know what I mean? You're more focused on just defending your position. Same with Simone Seminara, 16 seconds away. There's 0 reason to push in 11th position. You're not going to gain a position at this late stage in the race by putting that extra effort in. So for the likes of the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th, yeah, you're probably going to push. For the battle for 7th, 8th and 9th, yeah, you're probably going to push. For everybody else, it's going to be marginal what you actually gain. Even the likes of George Boothby in second place, right? He's 4 seconds behind the race leader. Is he pushing to the absolute nth degree? Pace-wise, possibly, but he's not going to be taking any risks because he doesn't actually have to. And there it goes, Tariq Adam round the outside, well, almost round the outside of Noah Ader, but has to think better of it.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Mr. David Christie is the commentator extraordinaire, because not only will he give you action, but he will give you the most well-rounded explanation of strategy you will hear at any time, at any place. But
I'm putting that on my gravestone. I'm putting that on, no. I'm putting that on my gravestone to Pello. Mr. Christie will give you action.
Mrs. Christie will be happy about that. But back to the race, and we see the pressure. We just spoke about this. The likes of Tariq Adam trying to push for position late in the race. David, there's your prediction. It's now starting to come to fruition. Some drivers are going to try and get that position, and Tariq Adam is putting a lot of pressure on Noah Ader.
And you can see that the two of them have now dropped back quite a bit, and the problem they've got now is Valentin Barrier is going to come and have a little join at the party as well. You can see Tariq desperate to try and get this going. Maybe he knows that Aston is good in the last 20 minutes, I don't know, but that's a great run for Tariq Adam. I was expecting him to stay on that inside line here, because all Ader has to do is just roll out the throttle there, and that's always going to happen. Look at Valentin Barrier in the background now. Surely this is going to be a move to the inside into Hill Corner. It is for Tariq Adam, sends it up the inside, but just doesn't have the confidence or doesn't have the grip. But here comes Valentin Barrier. He's going to get a jump on the pair of them. Absolutely guarantees if they don't get their heads together right now. Noah Ader is going to be in a world of hurt in the next 2 laps if he doesn't realise what's actually happening here, as Tariq Adam wants to make this move, but it just seems, and again, this is just me sort of reading into this here, Tapellos, that Tariq's almost hesitating to try and make this move.
Yeah, it's kind of it's weird, because I can actually see what you're seeing. It's coming across as if Tariq Adam is second guessing the move, trying to think, or as we see a car into the wall, and there we're getting another car flipped over.
Oh, Jack Alexander, no! Oh no, that car's gone.
It's gone. It's gone. And you actually did speak about this a few laps ago. Had Jack Alexander used up his tires, because he was looking a bit slower of the 2 Ferraris, and we saw him lose traction on the rear into the wall, and well, or rather spectacularly into the wall. But there you go. The race is never over until it's over, and that must be heartbreaking for Alexander. Heartbreaking, because they've looked solid throughout this whole race, had the pace, had the composure, but unfortunately one mistake renders that all moot.
Oh, side by side coming through the chase, and Tariq Adam alongside Noah Ader tries to get the outside line. He's got it done. A little bit of a hip check there, and that opens the door for Valentin Barrier as well. Nudged onto the grass there. Ader is going to be absolutely furious with that one. And Valentin Barrier makes the most of that opportunity, but make no mistake here, Tariq Adam is the one who is in a very, very dangerous position, because that man is a predator in the Aston Martin. He knows when to take the opportunities, he knows exactly when to go for the kill, and that is what you call an apex predator. That is exactly what Valentin Barrier is in that Aston Martin. I am very, very afraid for Tariq Adam right now, and unfortunately this is the only battle we've got left now. Everybody else is separated by seconds. Let's get a replay though of what happened to Jack Alexander, and I'm going to put my seatbelts on here, brace for impact, because this was one hell of a hit. He got it all wrong here on the exit of or the entrance to Skyline, on the exit of McPhillamy Park, and you saw it's those curbs again. How many times do we see drivers being very, very liberal with the use of those curbs, and it costs them dearly?
Yeah, it seems like those curbs are the part of the track that's biting back today. It tends to happen in races where you'll find one section, one corner, where everyone just struggles. Everyone just has an incident. Some drivers can hopefully drive away, no incident, but unfortunately, those curbs have claimed numerous lives today, and there was an example of just how hard those curbs can bite back, because trying to gather the car at that speed, it just hardly ever works out for you as a driver. But Genisus Caracas running a solo race at this point, really doing, dare I say, without any disrespect, doing a George Boothby. This is what we used to see George Boothby do: lead from the front, find their pace, and just pull away, consistent lap after lap, having a great race. And I think Genisus Caracas now has done that in this race, pushed on, pulled away, and look, for 10 minutes, it's still a long time, and as we saw with Alexander, anything can happen. But Genisus Caracas just needs to keep to a solid 7 out of 10 level of push, solid pace, and this race is in the bag.
Yeah, neither he or George Boothby are under any real pressure. Neither, to be fair, is Philippe Minard right now, because Tommy Rozier is 2.5 seconds back, and is actually, that gap is going up quite significantly over the laps here. So the three of them, you know, under no real pressure just now. But again, that's when complacency can rear its ugly head and can be an issue here. But this is what I want to say, because this battle is going to be absolutely fiery. Noah Ader is going to want blood in somebody's head on a pike after what happened to him. He's going to feel that he was absolutely mugged out of that position by both Tariq Adam and by Valentin Barrier, but the moment he's having to make do with just kind of sitting in and holding on to try and take whatever he can out of this situation. Meanwhile, Valentin Barrier, you've got to say, is the one that's really looking very dangerous to catching up to Tariq Adam and making that position actually happen. But to be fair, in the last couple of corners there, that gap has started to go out again. You can see a wider line taken by the Aston Martin there of Valentin Barrier as they come out of Forest Elbow onto Conrod Straight with just under 10 minutes left to go, just over 9 minutes left to go in this 8th round of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship here from Bathurst. And what a race it has absolutely been here. What is Noah Ader going to do? He looks one way, then the other. Again, just has to sink into it. And for me, this Aston Martin is looking very fighty indeed.
Yeah, look, the Aston is coming alive. There's no doubt about that. But we also have to give props to Tariq Adam, where they've turned this race around, actually to some degree. And I wanted to mention this earlier. We saw this last week with Noah Ader starting outside the top 10 and getting a top 10 finish, kind of having that impressive race that no one talks about, where you're out of the action, everything is happening, and you're just picking positions off one by one by one. And that's what we're seeing here between these three. Unfortunately, now they found themselves, by picking off these positions one by one, they found themselves grouped together in a battle to try and pick off positions off each other. That's competition, but it's looking so... It's on the wire. It's on the wire, and you're right. The Aston Martin of Valentin Barrier is looking solid. It's looking like it's got the pace and life in this last closing stages of the race.
Petrovic having another big moment into Forest Elbow. He gets going again, but again, he's now just ahead of your race leader. He'll be getting another lap put on him, currently 4 laps down, just now 7.5 minutes left to go in the race here. We're still watching this thrilling little fight here between 7th, 8th and 9th position. Tariq Adam leads Valentin Barrier, and then ahead of Noah Ader, who they got past just a couple of laps ago. They come out of Forest Elbow down onto the Conrod Straight yet again. Your race leader coming through the chase for 25th time to start lap number 26 here in Australia, New South Wales. The sun beaming down as it's midday, or just after midday, 29 minutes past 1, 1:30 in the afternoon virtual time. This is the Cobra ready to pounce. Valentin Barrier in an Aston Martin wants to take that Ferrari. The Ferrari does look like it has the run through the corners, the Aston Martin does have the grunt in a straight line. Certainly that's what the books would tell us just now, as we see Grantis Caracas, your race leader, on lap 26 then, 4.5 seconds ahead of George Boothby, who in turn is 4.5 seconds ahead of Philippe Minard in third position. So perhaps unsurprisingly here, Tapello, it looks like it's going to be a Ferrari 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and I can tell you now, I can already hear the Tifosi and the crowd back in Maranello celebrating this 1, 2, 3. But trust me, it hasn't always looked that easy. Yes, it looks like a commanding 1, 2, 3 for the Ferraris. Actually, 6 cars in the top 7. So yeah, strong return for Ferrari. That shows that the circuit just suiting the dynamics, the characteristics of that 296. But these drivers had to work hard, because as we saw this race, it is very easy to make a mistake. So maintaining and coming all right to be 55 minutes into this race, that takes extreme effort. But as we see on screen, Jonathan Clifford, right, and we know how unlucky he was to get in a crash. I can't remember who had crashed, but Jonathan Clifford just collected them because they had really nowhere to go. Good on them to still see them in the race and trying to go to the finish. And for sure, that Lamborghini is a handful, with probably has some damage, but still alive, still driving. That's what the kind of push we love to see.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I'm presuming that Petrovic has been into the pit lane again as we're watching Simone Seminara. Now we switch to the battle for 7th position. Does the Aston Martin have any answer to Tariq Adam again, just staying glued to the back bumper of that car in front? Just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, on the YouTube, you can vote for your driver of the day. So pop in your vote for who you believe has shone above all of the other drivers. Remember that it doesn't need to go to the race winner. It can go to any one of the drivers selected, and you can vote for whoever you think is your best driver today. Tapello, who would your vote go for?
Ooh, I'm going with a spicy one today. I'm going with a very spicy one. Wait for this. My driver of the day is Tommy Rizzi. And I'll tell you why. Ferraris look strong today, so we can see that. But Tommy Rizzi in P4, started P4, but they've done well to be there or thereabouts in the Mercedes. They've had a solid race, and I always say, I've kind of picked up this thing that sometimes as a driver you need a race where it looks boring but you're scoring consistent points, and I think Tommy Rizzi has done that really well today against a situation where we see they're not in the best car, but they've just made the best of the situation. They've held on to position, and they're going to take a very good haul of points today. So Tommy Rizzi is my driver of the day.
I think that's a very well thought out decision for that driver of the day. For myself, I can see why you've went with Tommy. It is a very good, solid performance that he's put in. For me though, I'm torn, because it's difficult for me to look past Grantis Caracas, who's kind of he's had a brilliant performance, but how much of that is because he's not had any of the nonsense behind to worry about? Then you've got George Boothby, who I'm more inclined to, just purely for that absolutely giga-chad 3000 IQ strategy call. Remember, he was running down in third, and he was behind a lot of the other drivers. We were thinking that perhaps Jack Alexander had pulled off the move of the century and maybe going to do that, but thankfully Boothby was able to put paid to that by going into the pits later on. So that got him second place. He's not really had to worry, he's not really had to fight anything since there. So for me, just on that, I'd have to go with George Boothby.
That's a good call. Good. What can I say? I can't argue with that, because you're right. That, and we spoke about how important we've seen the strategy become towards the end of the season. And you're right, George Boothby being confident enough to kind of go for that really big overcut. It's a very brave call. If it doesn't work, you look like an idiot. If it works, you look like the hero. And for sure today, George Boothby is the hero because of that strategy. As we're on the second last lap, Grantis Caracas being a victim of his success, unfortunately, driving so brilliantly that drivers tend to do this, isn't it? That drivers that have really good performances, they make it look easy. We don't realize how difficult, how much work, effort, sweat, determination, precision they have to put in to open a gap in front, keep that gap, and just pull away and keep going. And that's what Grantis Caracas has done today. One of those unsung performances that you really, really need to understand racing to see how good they've been throughout this entire race.
Yeah, 100%. It's been a textbook performance from Grantis Caracas to be out there and to, be invisible, essentially, I think is what we're meaning to say there, is because we've not really seen much of him, because our job is obviously to bring you all the excitement, all the drama, all of everything that's going on. And well, that's not been Grantis Caracas. He's just been Mr. Cool, Mr. Consistent, and keeping things going out there just now. So, yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. Either way, also great to see one driver that I didn't realise was in the driver of the day vote was for Roland Steyn. Really enjoy the fact that he is out there considerably in the lead of that driver of the day. That might change as we come to the end here, but if one driver does epitomise the Kaizen principle of keeping things going and pushing on, then it would be that number 10, Aston Martin, given, as we said, started at the end of last year and has just consistently been chipping away and pushing with everything that they've got through the course of the season. And yeah, it's been really, really enjoyable to watch. Meanwhile, your race leader, Grantis Caracas, then making her way through the S's for the final time, down to Forest Elbow, and it's a commanding 3.8 second lead that they've got over George Boothby. And imagine that this is autopilot now for the 19 Ferrari driver. George Boothby is going to take second place. Philippe Minard is going to take third position. But a faultless display by Grantis today.
Yeah, like you're saying, textbook. If you look up in the dictionary how to dominate a race, there's a picture of Grantis Caracas and a red Ferrari just there, because that is exactly what he's done today. A brilliant drive. Cannot sing his praises enough, and we'll hear it in the interview. I'm sure he's overjoyed as well as they cross the line for the final time. Well done, Grantis Caracas, winner for the Bathurst race. Brilliantly done, well driven. Can't say anything better than that.
As you can see, the crowd behind have spontaneously combusted into some green smoke there. The flares have gone off here at Bathurst Mount Panorama. Second place then for George Boothby. Philippe Minard taking third position. Tommy Rozier in fourth. Cody Sherritt in fifth. Luke Addison in fifth position. Tariq Adam in seventh. Valentin Barry gets third position ahead of Noah Eder, who doesn't retrieve that position back. Ninth position for them. Simone Timonana is going to come across the line in 10th position. But a fantastic race nonetheless. Very, very enjoyable to watch here. And I think that everybody's definitely going to have got their money's worth tonight. And we'll just be a couple of minutes before we get a chance to speak to Grantis Caracas, George Boothby and Philippe Minard. So interestingly, minimal impact on the championship here to Pello, given that George Boothby finished in that second place here. So while he would love to be on that top step, he's done the next best thing and minimised any damage or any chance of folk attacking that championship lead.
Yep, and we spoke about this at the beginning of the race. That is exactly what George Boothby needs to do. If they're not winning races, then they're really putting in a serious performance to get the next best thing, which is a massive haul of points. And if you're not winning the race, the next best seat is P2, and George Boothby did exactly that. That's how you win a championship, even when, dare I say, you're not on form and other drivers look quicker. You just do what you need to do and get the points.
Yep, you certainly do. So there we go then. We cut away from the track as the action concludes there at Bathurst Mount Panorama. We'll wait for the drivers to jump into the chat, and obviously top three that we've got to speak to tonight. First place, Grantis Caracas, George Boothby in second place, and then Philippe Minard in third. Now, I'm curious to Pello, What driver/drivers would you like to speak to tonight?
I'll tell you what. I have a question for Grantis Caracas, because what they did today is about as perfect as you'd love to see racing. That's just a 10 out of 10 drive.
Well, let's make that happen, shall we? Let's bring in Grantis Caracas, and Tapello, you can ask him that question yourself.
Grantis, good evening. Well done. P1 once again. How does that feel?
Yeah, hello guys. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it feels really good. Finally got a P1 in this championship. Yep, I was really confident for this round because I was driving 2 weeks before the endurance race, so I know I'm gonna have a pretty good pace if I just, don't do any mistakes and practice a bit. So yeah, I did that and yeah, finished P1. So I'm really happy.
Look, we saw you racing. You looked absolutely brilliant, and the big question on everyone's mind is, how do you maintain that level of focus when you're all alone? Some drivers prefer to have cars that are next to them that's keeping them in check. You were driving alone, you had no one near you. How do you maintain focus and pace in that kind of situation?
Well, obviously I knew that my pace is good, so I just knew I just have to drive as clean as possible and do as little mistakes as possible, just in my mind, just thinking that if I do that, I know I can win the race. So I didn't have any worries about it, so I was just, doing my own race, not making any mistakes, not pushing too hard, and, just trying to maintain the pace of the guys behind, and yeah, it worked, so I'm really happy.
Yeah, no, it definitely worked, and we're seeing a very good relationship you're having with the car you're driving. Can you just tell us why you chose the Ferrari and how do you feel about it so deep into the season?
Well, I'm a Ferrari sports driver, so I have to drive Ferrari. So yeah, that's why. But yeah, I really enjoyed this car, and hopefully, with many more races to come, I can improve even more, because I know there is still some room for improvement and win even more races.
No, most definitely, and trust me when I tell you, we love seeing you race because what you're doing is impressive. Thank you so much. Another brilliant race. Is there anyone you'd love to thank after this fantastic win?
Yeah, obviously my team. With the team, we've been working a lot with the setup. So yeah, I want to thank for the hard work. We've been working together, and yeah, thank you guys.
Excellent stuff. Well, there we go then. A huge thank you to Grantis Caracas there for taking the race win and having a chat with Tapello. Let's bring in then Booby himself, George Boothby, waiting in the waiting room to have a chat. Mr. Boothby, second place. That was a hell of a call on strategy at half time for the pit stop there. What was it like at Mount Panorama this week?
Yo, so yeah, this is my first time driving this car here, so it was my teammates in the academy, they did VEM here, so they gave me a few tips and pointers, and the car felt great, to be honest. It felt really nice. I think I just needed to get the experience, because everyone else here were in that VEM race in their respective cars, and I was in the McLaren there, so it was like I'd say I felt like I had to do a bit of catch up, I guess, but so yeah, my quali was, I think I had a bit more in quali, especially stint 1, but then second stint, yeah, it felt great. Setup felt good. Shout out to Hymo. I literally just used the Hymo setup and it was flawless, so fair play to them. And yeah, I just drove my race. I think I was catching Grantis slightly at the end, but he had such good pace in stint 1. He just drove away. So I assume he was just on a chill out mode, in the second stint probably.
I was just about to say, George, how important is getting a good setup for both your car and for the track?
Obviously a good setup helps. It's not the be-all and end-all sometimes, but when you get to like the top split, and you get to you're trying to find every tiny bit of time possible, that's when the setups really do start, making a little bit of a difference. I'm sure with a really basic setup, even like the top eSport drivers can still compete. But it's just that little bit extra, that little bit, like the cherry on top is where the setup comes in. And yeah, my one worked pretty well today, so I got no complaints there. And yeah, Grantis was just on fire.
Yeah, it's always about marginal gains, as always. Finally then, is there anybody else that you want to say hello to? Big shout out, thanks, anything like that this week?
Yeah, obviously the team, Veloce, you guys, and all the people in the chat watching and supporting. As always, like, that's why I stream. That's why I do it, because it's just fun, and the banter in the chat and all that. It's good to have. So, yeah, and hopefully, where are we next week? Actually, I can't remember. Spa, isn't it? Hopefully, hopefully we can have a good round there, and maybe I can chat to you again. Who knows?
Well, fingers crossed. It's a commanded leading championship. Let's see if that lasts going into Spa. So, George Boothby, congratulations on second place.
Yeah, thank you guys. Cheers for that.
There we go then. And that is all the interviews that we have tonight. Philippe Menard can't unfortunately make it in to have a chat with us. So the next thing we've got to do before we sign off here, Tapello, is get the wheel. This one for our two drivers for the IMB Racewear vouchers. So like last week, Tapello, I'm going to let you have the honours.
Right, perfect. I see my name is missing, but that's fine. Let's spin the wheel, please. Fingers crossed. And that's for Samir Forsh is walking away with the IMB Raceway £20 voucher this week. Well done. Congratulations. That should definitely get in handy. Let's go for the second spin.
And David Christie. Come on. Oh!
It's George Boothby. A double whammy, double win for George Boothby. P2 in the race and a voucher just to top it off, make that P2 just that much sweeter. So fantastic. Congratulations to George Boothby there. Unfortunate for you, Mr. Christie. Nothing this week.
I'm telling you, I could have 13 David Christies on there and still lose. Jeez, oh goodness me. Right, the only good thing on this, just very quickly, is the fact that we have got more of this to come. Next week we are off to Spa for round number 9. Then it's Brands Hatch, Valencia and Silverstone still to come over the next couple of weeks. So keep it locked to the Genesis Esports channel here on YouTube. And also to update you on the driver of the day. That was none other than Roland Stein getting the driver of the day on that one. 50% of the votes ahead of Grantis Caracas and George Boothby. Very, very well deserving winner of driver of the day. So congratulations to Roland Stein on that one. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for us today. I've been Dave Christie. In the box with me, as always, my good buddy, Tapello Merioli. We will be back here same time, same place for another round of madness here at the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship as we head to round 9 at Spa. Until then, take care and stay safe.